In today's video, we're talking about how to unlock your DualSense, Sony's Hail Mary release strategy for 2024, and when we're getting Palworld on the PlayStation 5. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and this is my channel PSReady, where I talk about everything PlayStation. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you let me know by subscribing and setting your notifications to all. Real talk, it helps the channel out a lot, and I'd love to get to 200K by the end of the year. This weekend, as far as gaming goes, I played a lot of no, I'm just kidding. I didn't play more Dragon's Dogma. I finally beat it. I got the credits, and then I wanted more of that combat. So I started up Monster Hunter World again because Capcom is running an event right now called Return to World, where they're saying, hey, everyone, come back and play Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. The game is on sale, and I put so many hours into it over the weekend. It is phenomenal. It runs great on the PS5, and there's like 100,000 people concurrently playing it on Steam right now. So you can imagine how many people are playing it on PlayStation because the community there was and is huge. This game is really cool. I played Monster Hunter on the PSP a ton back in the day. I had Freedom Unite. Me and my brother used to play it all the time. Our PSPs could ad hoc between our bedrooms. It was sweet. And then I played a couple of the 3DS ones. I'm pretty sure I played Try when they released it there. And then when they released Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate on the Switch, I jumped on there as well. So I played a lot of Monster Hunter in my day. World, in my opinion, is the best Monster Hunter. I don't like that the story takes forever to let you play the game, but once you get into the game, very similar situation to Dragon's Dogma, it's totally opened up, and there's just so many different possibilities for different weapons, combat techniques, and all that. It has the best graphics in the entire series still. It came out in 2015, and it still looks amazing on the PlayStation 5. So if you've never played it, there has never been a better time. And if it's not on sale when you watch this video, just pick up a used copy of Iceborne. I'm pretty sure you could get it for $5 at this point. Anyway, the first story I want to talk about today is how to unlock your DualSense controller. Now, this is for PC, so if you're someone like me who loves using the DualSense or the DualSense Edge on PC, this new app or update for an app that's been around for a while is an absolute must. And because this is a PlayStation app for PC, it has a bizarre name, so I'm gonna have to read it. It's called PCX Sense, and it's a free app you can download from GitHub. I'll link it down in the description when I post the video. Basically what it does is it gives you a full range of customization over your DualSense. So not only can you activate the adaptive triggers in games that don't support it, you can fine tune it yourself and basically give it the capability to use the adaptive triggers in any game you want. Where a lot of people are using this app now is with Dolphin and Yuzu. Dolphin is the GameCube and Wii emulator. Yuzu is the Switch emulator. So if you use this app with those emulators, it basically gives you the ultimate Switch experience on your PC, or if you want a handheld experience on your Steam Deck, because Switch games run really, really good on the Steam Deck now. Yuzu is fine-tuned for the Steam Deck, so you can basically have a beefed up Switch. Games like Red Dead Redemption can run at a locked 60 frames per second on the Steam Deck, or if you're on PC, you can even play them at way higher frame rates, which is awesome. And there's actually a game preservation angle there too. I know my friend Rich from Fan the Deck, I was just on the Nerd Nest podcast talking about the Steam Deck there. He told me this system he has where if you buy a Ubisoft game on PC, basically the EULA, the agreement you have to sign says that they can come in and take the game out whenever they want, which sucks. So what he does is he buys the Switch game, dumps the Switch game to his PC. So it's his copy, and then he emulates that on the Steam Deck, and that avoids the shady sites where people post emulated Switch games that can give your PC insane viruses. But then once you do that, you can just play your own copies of Switch games on the Steam Deck and you'll own them forever, which is great. But on a regular gaming PC, if you're someone like me who loves using the DualSense, this totally unlocks the controller, and it even gives you the ability to fine tune the adaptive triggers. You can map the trigger pulls, so you can make games that don't support DualSense functions actually have adaptive trigger support and haptic feedback. So if you use Yuzu or Dolphin, you can play GameCube, Wii, and Switch games with all of these awesome DualSense features, but you can also do it in regular PC games as well. The other big thing that this helps with is opening up the ability to use the DualSense wireless on PC. Even if you play a first-party game from Sony that supports the DualSense, I'm gonna say Ghostwire Tokyo because that's the first one that came to mind. That's a second-party game, but it had really good functionality with the DualSense. If you plug in your DualSense, you're able to take advantage of all of those features, but if you play wirelessly, you have to use Steam to trick your game into thinking it's a 360 controller or an Xbox One controller, and obviously once you do that, it not only removes all of the DualSense features, but it also changes all the button prompts in said game to use Xbox layout. So you'll see A, B, X, Y instead of circle, cross, triangle, and square. So I got this up and running with my DualSense Edge, and I tried out Monster Hunter World on PC, and it's a phenomenal experience. It really does make it feel like you're playing just on the PlayStation 5, but if you fine tune the adaptive triggers, you then get more support out of the controller on the PC than you even get on the PlayStation 5, because World is a PS4 game and doesn't take advantage of the DualSense at all. This is yet another opportunity where I get to talk about it being a missed opportunity for Sony. It's like everything I want them to do, they get so close to actually doing it, and then they give up like 80% there. Like I was just talking about, they do give you DualSense support in a lot of their PC ports, which we're going to talk about later in the video, but you have to use it wired, right? And it only works with certain games. And then the way their drivers work on PC, it doesn't work in every game. It's not like a universal driver, so then you have to go into Steam or you have to use these third-party apps to unlock the features. And it would be really cool if they supported PC fully, because they're doing a really good job with their ports. There's a couple ports that weren't great. Of course, The Last of Us Part 1 comes up, but now if you go back and play that game, it runs so good and it's actually like a finished port. The other thing I really want them to take advantage of is, of course, that PlayStation Link adapter. When that thing was announced, I was so excited because on Xbox controllers, you can buy this adapter for your PC that circumvents Bluetooth and allows it to connect to its own wireless radio, and then you'll never have a dropout ever. If you use Bluetooth with the DualSense controller, there's this weird issue that happens in some games where the Bluetooth just like craps out, and I've had that happen with Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I'm playing between PC and Steam Deck, and it's so frustrating. So if Sony updated the Link adapter or the DualSense in some way to allow you to just connect to that in the same way, that would be so awesome, because they've done it in the past. Back when they introduced PlayStation Now streaming, they introduced this like adapter for the DualShock 4 that allowed you to connect your DualShock to your Mac or PC, and it worked just like that Xbox adapter, but they never released an update for it to allow it to work with DualSense, so you can't really get that great wireless functionality. And then they would also have to update it so that you get those DualSense features in games when you use that adapter. So the next best thing is, of course, this app that I'm talking about in this story. So if you want to try it out, I'll link it down in the description. I highly recommend it. It's a really good app for the PC. And that kind of leads us into the next news story, which is PlayStation's new strategy to make a bunch of money on games in 2024, because I don't want to pretend like there's no exclusive games coming out, because there are. I mean, right around the corner, we have not only Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we also have Rise of the Ronin, Stellar Blade is supposed to come out this year. There's a much bigger list of games that are coming exclusively to the PlayStation 5, and then from the first party, we have Helldivers 2, but other than Helldivers 2, we really don't know what's coming from the first party this year, and it doesn't seem like Sony has any games ready, which is fine, right? Like, I don't like years like this where there's not a lot of first party action coming from Sony, but I like their strategy, which is to not release games early. They finish games, they look and run amazing, and the most they'll do is cut content. There's all those leaks going on with Spider-Man on PC where the game is actually playable. There's bosses and stuff in that file that they're able to use on PC, like Riot, that never made it into the game, and there's like Lost Venom stuff, and of course Insomniac is taking that Lost Venom content and creating a Venom game out of that, which is really cool because I want a Venom game, but that's the most they'll do. They'll sacrifice content to make sure the game looks and runs amazing when it comes out, because even if you look at Spider-Man 2 with that cut content, it runs perfectly on the PS5. Like, I know there were errors with the game at launch, there were some weird bugs that people had, like the game was crashing and stuff like that, but that was patched out within a week of the game's release. So I'm not really holding that against Sony in any way. So what I want them to do is continue on with that strategy and just let games cook until they're finished. And if that means waiting until 2025 to get another huge year like we had around the launch of the PS5, that's totally fine with me. There's a lot of studios under the PlayStation umbrella working on brand new games like Sucker Punch. Of course, Bluepoint has their first new IP coming out very soon. We have Ben Studio. Naughty Dog is working on a game with a new IP, and of course, The Last of Us Part 3. If you go down the entire list of first-party developers, we have a pretty good idea of what they're working on, including developers like Santa Monica Studio, where they're working on a new IP as well, and it might be a revival of the space game that they canceled before God of War 2018. Cory Barlog didn't direct God of War Ragnarok because he was working on that game, so that one's been in the works for quite a while. And then on the live service front, we have games like Concord and then on the live service front, we have a few games coming out like Concord, which is going to be one of their first-person shooters in a long time, like since Killzone Shadowfall. So they have a lot of stuff in the oven. We're just going to have to wait for it to come out. But the way they're solving this problem is by porting a ton of games to PC. We saw interviews with the CEO of Sony recently where he said basically, yeah, we're going to start porting everything to PC. We're going to do some day-and-date launches, which is great because Jim Ryan was like fundamentally against that. He was just putting those artificial blockers servers where even if a port was finished, we'd have to wait at least a year or at the very minimum 6 months for a game to come to PC. It looks like Sony's totally eliminating that strategy, and we have a lot of games coming this year. So according to this leak, which is verifiable because all of these games showed up on that massive Nvidia leak, and a lot of those games have been released, there's still just a few outliers that haven't, and these are all coming from that list. We will be getting 3 major titles on PC this year, and they'll be releasing pretty close together. So they didn't really fix it, PC hardware fixed it, and then of course they had the Last of Us port, which was garbage, and then we had to wait months for them to fix it. Because yeah, that's like a no-brainer release for them. It's absolutely bizarre to think that they would release The Last of Us Part 1 on PC and never release The Last of Us Part 2, because all we need in our lives is more discourse around The Last of Us Part 2. I like the game. I've soured a little bit on the story as time has gone on, just because there's like a thing that happens at the beginning, and when the game came out, I was like, I want to see the story that's being told here. I think it ends, and then they have like an epilogue that kind of ruins the ending of the story, but the gameplay is so good that I want to play that with mods on PC, because you can make like combat scenarios and stuff like that. I think when they release it for PC, they should have a level editor so people can release like combat maps and everything like that, because the combat opened up so much from The Last of Us Part 1 to Part 2. The second game we're getting is one that's been a long time coming, Ghost of Tsushima, and we actually got an explanation as to why that took so long. I guess the studio that they hired to port it from PS5 to PC, it's their first port, so they were really just trying to get it right, and that's taken a long time. This game is going to do gangbusters on PC. It's a perfect like side game. I don't really want to say clone because that makes it sound bad, but it's like a perfect, type of game that's similar to The Witcher 3, but having it set in feudal Japan is just phenomenal. And I played that game back when the 60 FPS patch came out on the PlayStation 5. I will definitely play it again on PC, and that will be a perfect release timing for them announcing Ghost of Tsushima 2. I would actually guess that they'll do some sort of showcase or state of play where a surprise announcement is not only Ghost of Tsushima 2, but then also Ghost of Tsushima for PC. That's just like perfect synergy there. And then the third one is another long time coming game. It's one of the only PS5 launch titles that hasn't been released on PC, and that's Demon's Souls. So I would definitely play that on PC. I did play it at launch and I loved it. I started Demon's Souls back when it came out. My best friend George found it at GameStop. It was already really cheap because that game didn't do well here, and we beat that game in like a weekend. It was so fun playing the multiplayer and everything like that, but having the remake on PC where you can really open up the settings and run it at max settings instead of medium and get that 60 FPS gameplay, I think that game will be a huge hit on PC, where people who played Elden Ring and absolutely loved it would love to return to that world. Then you can go back and play the remake of the game that started it all, Demon's Souls. Actually, I said 3 games are coming. There's 4 big games coming. The fourth one is one that's primed to absolutely take over on PC, and that's Gran Turismo 7. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the drama on PC with Forza Motorsport or Xbox, I guess. I don't know why you would, other than you want to see Xbox games fail, which, like, if you're a PlayStation fan, there is a little bit of morbid curiosity and a little bit of gloating you can do about some of the bigger Xbox releases from the past year not really landing right. The biggest problem comes down to the fact where you'll have cars, right? You want multiple versions of the same car so you can spec them into different classes, and you get car levels by driving your car and performing well in a race. If you level up a car and then buy another one, the level of the first car does not transfer. It doesn't like globally transfer to that version of the car. So you'll have to regrind up to the max level to unlock all the parts you want to put it in a separate class. Gran Turismo 7 had a little bit of a rocky start where too many people bought it, and it's a live service game, and the amount of content on the disc didn't allow you to really play the game. It took them weeks to actually figure it out, but once they did that and they fixed a little bit of the monetization in that game, not the like real monetization, the actual in-game currency, like the cost of cars and everything like that, it became a huge game on the PlayStation 5. And if they can figure out crossplay where the servers are merged, where you have PC players and PS5 players, I think that could expand the community even more. I think this is a great move by Sony. I really think they need to focus on marketing these games though, because the 2 that didn't perform well at all were Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Sackboy got 0 marketing. It released last December. It didn't run well, so that's kind of like 3 strikes against it right there, just the release timing and everything like that. But then Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, not only did it have no marketing, but they released it right in July when Diablo 4 was still hot. I know you're probably not a huge PC gamer if you're watching this channel, but it's really becoming a good supplementary device to the PS5, especially because with Helldivers, you're going to have to log into your PlayStation account, and it seems like your progress will transfer between PC and PS5, so you kind of get to go back to the Vita glory days. And that brings us to the third news story, which is kind of like another this is like a PC centric video, I guess, but the new hit game is Palworld. It broke the overall record of all time for concurrent players. It went over 1 million players on Steam this weekend. It's also available on Game Pass for both Xbox and PC, and I think that Game Pass deal is what's holding it up on the PS5 release. But the difference this time around is people asked Shuhei Yoshida, who's a very responsive executive over at Sony. He's awesome. I actually met him like back in 2013, and it was so cool talking to him back when I went to San Francisco. People asked him on his Japanese Twitter account about the game coming to PS5, and he said he's already working on it. So because this is a Game Pass release, I would assume they had some deal in place where it has to stay exclusive to Xbox for a certain amount of time. But Palworld's developers have an insane amount of leverage now where they can say, hey, this game's blowing up. We're going to take that agreement we made and you're going to amend it for us. And I'm sure Xbox would let them do that because I've heard they're actually pretty cool with devs. There are so many other games that have cloned Pokemon, like Dragon Quest Joker 2 was a DS example from back in the day. And Dragon Quest is interesting because I saw an image going around on Twitter where there are so many monsters from Dragon Quest, which came out before Pokemon, that are directly cloned by Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow. So yeah, there's like a litany of games you could also reference that are very similar to Pokemon, and the only reason people are upset about this one is because it's actually doing well, unlike something like Cassette Beast, which came out last year and got good reviews. I played it. I don't like the story in it. But yeah, to round this out, it's good to know that PlayStation is already actively looking at porting it over, and it's just nice to see, instead of the whole like verbiage we got from Palworld's developer where they said like, we'll consider that in the future, we saw someone from Sony actively saying that they're working on it, which is a really good development. Anyway guys, that's all I've got for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.